Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today we will be having a look at the 2024 Nightster. But before we do, we have our viewer bike for the week. This is Gordon's 2021 Fat Boy from Southwest Australia. This bike is a lowered stage 2 with blow performance pipes, burly 10-inch roller bars, tail tidy mirror indicators, and an Arlen Ness monster sucker intake. Wicked looking bike, and thanks to Gordon for sending that in. And if you would like to see your bike in a video, send me a pic with the details and I'll get it up on the channel. My email address is in the description to this video. So here we are out at my local dealer, Prairie Harley Davidson, located just outside of Regina, Saskatchewan. And this is the 2024 Nightster. This bike came out a couple of years ago around the time Harley was killing off its original air-cooled Sportsters. This would now be one of your more entry-level Harleys. This particular bike is in the vivid black, and it only has one other color, and that is the billiard gray. This bike only has one trim as well, and that is black. The main feature of the Nightster is the liquid-cooled, high-revving Revolution Max 975cc engine. This motor is built right into the chassis and puts out 91 horsepower and 72 foot-pounds of torque. This is obviously a smaller bike compared to the big twins. It has a length of just under 7.5 feet and weighs in at a fairly light 481 pounds in running condition. The Nightster has a seat height of 27.1 inches and a ground clearance of 4.5 inches. Lean angles are 32 degrees on either side, and this bike rides on Dunlop Harley Davidson Series tires, a 100 tire on a 19-inch wheel on the front and a 150 tire on a 16-inch wheel on the back. The gauge on this bike is a round digital 4-inch display with speedometer, odometer, trip A and B, gear indicator, fuel range, clock, tach, fuel level, and ride mode indication. The bike also has rider safety enhancements such as anti-lock brakes, traction control, and drag torque slip control. But that's enough about the specs, folks. Let's get on this thing and see how she rides. So the first thing I noticed about this bike was the look. Although this bike is on the Revolution Max platform, Harley has tried to keep the aesthetic of the more classic looking Harley. Much better than the Sportster S, in my opinion. The quote-unquote gas tank on the Nightster is just actually an air box, and the fuel tank fills from under the seat. This was very deliberately done just to keep that classic look. And also, once on this bike, it was quite noticeable how light the Nightster is compared to your regular Harleys. And I should also mention that just looking at this bike, it did not look comfortable, but we'll get to more of that later. Now let's talk about the handling on this bike. This is a very nimble bike for a Harley. This is the type of motorcycle that you would actually like to take through the twists and turns. It has a decent lean angle, and the weight makes it a breeze to wind around the corners. It made me want to get on a twisty canyon road and just go. I've even heard this bike referred to as the next version of the Dyna. As for performance, this bike is excellent. The Nightster has a lot less horsepower than the Sportster S, but you really don't notice. The 975cc liquid-cooled Revolution Max engine gets up to speed pretty much just as fast. The bike has 3 programmed ride modes: rain, road, and sport. And in sport mode, the throttle response is great. and the power delivery on these Revolution Max engines is incredibly smooth. Very fun to crank the throttle on this machine. Now, comfort on this bike was actually better than I expected. The seat is minimal and fairly stiff. However, once on it, it did not feel too bad. Now, having said that, I doubt this seat would be very good on a longer trip, but on shorter rides, it's better than expected. The bike has mid-controls and low handlebars that make you lean forward a little. And I am not generally a fan of a setup like this, but for some reason it works on this bike. It's more of a sportier riding position than I'm used to, but I did not have an issue getting used to this bike at all. If I had one gripe, it would be that the foot pegs are pretty small. The exhaust on this bike is a 2-in-1 with the catalyst in the header. It's louder than the usual stock exhaust on your Milwaukee 8s, but it still could use a better sound. I like the Nightster having the 2-in-1 pipe, but as the salesman I talked to said, it would be better if it didn't look like a leaf blower. The braking on the Nightster was good, but nothing overly special. The front is a single floating rotor with a 4-piston caliper, and the rear is a solid expansion rotor with a single piston caliper. The gauge, as you can see, is mounted between the handlebars and is a 4-inch display. The speedo is analog, with the rest of the indicators such as fuel level, fuel range, gear, odometer, etc. being digital. The Nightster has a LED headlight as well as LED rear lighting and LED bullet turn signals. The suspension on the Nightster is okay. It's nothing too exciting. It has 41mm Showa dual bending valve suspension in the front forks, and the rear has outboard coil spring shock absorbers. Nothing too special, but they get the job done. All in all, this was a very nice little bike. It was responsive, quick, and nimble. The styling is also much better than the other bikes on the Revolution Max platform, and it felt more comfortable than it looks. I was actually impressed by this bike. If I had to choose a Rev Max, it would be this one. And yes, I have been on a Pan America as well. This would be a nice entry-level bike for someone to get on. The 975cc engine makes good power, but not overwhelmingly so. Also, with the different ride modes, you could start out in rain mode, which reduces the throttle response to allow you to work up to where you're comfortable. But if you get the chance to get on one of these, try it out. You might be impressed too. So before I go, I must send a thank you out to my local dealership, Prairie Harley Davidson, who made this video and all my review videos possible. They are located just outside Regina, Saskatchewan, and they are an independent, locally family-owned and operated business. And these days, with all the large corporations pushing in, these independent dealers need to be supported. So if you feel like checking them out, I will have their contact information in the description to this video. Anyway, you guys have a good day, and we'll catch you in the next one.